Hey everyone, are you just starting out and are you wondering how many certifications do I need and how do I make the most of them? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. So one of the most common questions that I get about certifications are how many should you get and how many do you really need? So one of the things I typically advise when people come to me is I tell them don't get more than 2 to 3 certifications. And you might be wondering why. Well, here's the thing, is when you're starting out, the certifications and the amount of experience you have, well, both of those things combined really determine the value that you get from the certification and how it reflects on your background. And what I mean by that is if you have 20 certifications but you have no work experience, well, employers tend to view that as that you're a good test taker, but you don't really have much to really support those certifications. So why do you need to get so many? Well, you really don't. And you should really save the time and the money and make them really count for you. How do you do that? All these books have quite a few pages and they have an absolute ton of information. Well, unless you're a computer, chances are you're probably not going to remember everything that's in this book or any of these books. It's really hard to remember everything that you learn because when you learn one thing and you move on to the next one, this one starts to fade. It's how our brains are programmed. We're programmed to remember the last or the present things that we use. Well, the thing is, as you start to stack up more and more, well, it becomes harder and harder to recall everything very quickly. And if you're just starting out, the problem is what you learn in these books, well, you're not putting into practice, so it becomes even harder to recall them and show an employer that you actually understand and can apply the different techniques and different areas that you're learning. Well, how do you actually get the most out of them and what can you do to maximize your time, your money, and get the most out of them? Well, if you stick to 2 to 3 certifications, what that allows you to do is to narrow what you're learning. And as we just said, you're learning an awful lot. So if you begin to narrow that into 2 to 3 certifications, you can start to relearn, refocus, review things that you're learning so that you actually place that into your permanent memory and you can recall them very quickly and develop further understanding. However, the way to really make them work for you is to take what you're learning, build projects, and get hands-on as much as you can. Build projects that map to the positions that you're interested in. Well, that allows you to walk in, show an employer that you have the certification, and it allows you to speak to it through those projects. And what the projects do is if you match them to what the employer's job duties list, and you create your projects from those listings, and the way you do that is to look at a position requirement, look at the duties under that position, and then create projects that mimic those duties. So take what you're learning in the certs, create the projects, map them to the position. Those 3 things combined give you experience. And that is going to help you when you're going for your first job or you're transitioning into perhaps cybersecurity. Well, what that'll do is it'll allow you to take all this knowledge, apply it to the projects, and show employers that, hey, you don't just know what you've learned, you're actually getting hands-on and applying it. Once you've gathered a certain amount of certs, let's say there's another subject that you want to study. Well, you don't have to get the cert for every single subject area that you're studying. So in some of the books, for instance, let's say with the CYSA Plus, let's say you want to learn some analysis techniques, how to understand and analyze attacks and the different subjects that are in here. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to actually take the certification. Another approach is you could read the book, get what you need out of it, but you don't have to necessarily take the certification. You could in the future, and you already put that knowledge into your head, but every book that you read, let's say you're studying the CISSP, for example, and maybe you don't have the years of experience to take that certification, well, you can still read it and start to prepare ahead of time without taking a cert. And what that does, it saves you time and money, and it still allows you to learn. Don't waste your time, or don't put the money into certifications without having that experience where it's not going to necessarily benefit you. So just some things to consider. So again, target those 2 to 3 certs, put projects behind them that map to the job duties, and then in the other areas and certs that you want to study, feel free to read and study the material and then take the cert later on after you've gotten a job and perhaps having the employer pay for it, or even some experience so that you can actually put that behind your name with some years of experience. That helps it count a bit more. But I'll just tell you right now, starting out, you don't need 10 or more certifications. And trust me, I see people all the time doing that. And honestly, it's awesome and it shows that it's hard work, but it's not probably the ideal way to spend your time and your money. You're better off getting some hands-on projects, because chances are you're not going to remember everything after you've gone through about 10 of these books. So make it count. Focus in, develop a skill, get those core skills, get hands-on, and show employers that you can do the job to make certs work for you. Hope this helps you, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.